Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse, New York. You also find them on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York, and on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse in their drive-through location. This is a very special edition of Dolphin Dive. You know, Dolphin Dive is with us every single month in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with the LeMoyne College Dolphins. And today we have the opportunity here on a Tuesday morning to start off November, here on Tuesday, November 1st. As we start a new month, there's new life for the LeMoyne Dolphins men's soccer team as they move forward here in the playoffs. They have a game coming up in the NE10 tournament with Adelphi, which will be this Wednesday, November 2nd at 7 p.m. Eastern Time after defeating Southern Connecticut State on the road 3-2 in overtime back on October 29th. And we are joined by the head coach of the LeMoyne Dolphins men's soccer team, Tom Bonus. Tom, how are you today?
Good, Dan. How are you?
Doing very well. And Coach, you know, you and I discussed it off the air and talked about it on the field as well, that you know, this team has been doing some good things late, and I know you've had a bunch of ties this season up to this point, 5 ties this season, but we see toward the latter end of the season you got a victory over Adelphi, who you're going to see in just a day here, and you had a victory over St. Anselm at home on Senior Day. Just what you can say about those 2 victories, winning 2 out of 3 to round out the regular season.
Yeah, I think the guys are coming together at the right time, and we're starting to find some results. I think the guys are clicking, but more than that, I think it's a real character wins with this group. We've had a lot of injuries and a lot of things that we've dealt with this year, and I'm just proud of the guys, the way that they've come through it, and they just keep battling.
You know, and you say you're proud of the guys and what they've been able to do and that they've been, battling through everything. And why do you think it's coming together now? What is it about this team's resiliency that it's showing up at a time where you need it most?
I just think right now we're getting some really great leadership from some of our seniors, Tom Henn, Terrence Chrysler Howard, Josh Marr, our goalkeeper, Brett Stern, Brian Perdomo. They're really our leadership team, and I think that just the message that they're sending to the guys that we're not going down without a fight is just spread through the whole team. And and besides that, I think the seniors are playing very well right now.
And, obviously you've spent a lot of time at LeMoyne over 2 decades there coaching and seeing a bunch of different teams with different players develop in different skill sets and whatnot. This team, like you said, they're coming together. You mentioned a bunch of the leaders on the team and that they're working together at this time. You're able to lean on some of those guys. Is there any other team in the past that you can look back to and say, hey, we had a similar situation where we had some adversity and it all started to click toward the latter end of the season when you needed it most? Or is this team unique in and of itself?
No, there's probably one other team that I can remember, and it's actually back in 2005 when we won our first Northeast 10 championship. I remember that team went through a lot of adversity that year, and they were in a point where they just had to win the NE10 tournament to definitely get into the NCAAs, and magically we did that. So I think there's a lot of similarities between those 2 teams, but this team here has just been such a pleasure to coach, just because every day you go out and they're willing to work and deal with whatever comes their way.
That coming here from Tom Bonus, the head coach of the LeMoyne Dolphins men's soccer team as they move on here in the postseason in the NE10. That final loss that you took in the regular season, to go back to that, the loss on the road at Assumption on October 25th, 2-0. What was the conversation on the field with the guys after that game, and what from that game did you take as a positive that maybe you used to say, yeah, we lost this game, but this is what we're going to build on, or this is what we've seen? What was that conversation like, and what did you share with the guys?
Well, I remember that conversation as a game, just telling them, I'm really proud of them, because at that point we knew that we were in the playoffs, and and I told them, hey, we're in the playoffs. Let's make the best of it. It's a 3-game season, and so far they've done that with our win on Saturday, and hopefully we can get a great result on Wednesday too.
Coach, we spoke right at the beginning of the season before you had played a game about the importance of the retreat that you took with the team. Not only the importance of the retreat, but the fact that you got to be a part of it when you have somebody from Army West Point step up and lead it, so you could literally be arm in arm with your student athletes. When you look back to that, we spoke about what it could do for this season, and now we're seeing where we're at. Has that retreat and that time together away from everything, has it paid off dividends, and is it helping right now?
Absolutely. Matter of fact, me and my assistant were just talking about that on Saturday after our game, and we said, the things that we learned at the retreat and the team learned, they've taken, with them, and they've applied it to the team, all year, and especially now, because we've had, so many injuries, and so many injuries, and our backs have been to the wall. That retreat was definitely a huge part of our success this season.
And seeing Southern Connecticut State in this first game that you had in the NE10 tournament here for men's soccer, when you go up in that matchup against them and get the victory, the time that you had faced them before was not that long ago. It was earlier in October, back on October 1st, when you were on the road at Southern Connecticut State as well, tied the game 2-2. What was the difference between those two games, and what did you take away from that first outing against Southern Connecticut State that helped you get the decision this time around?
I think I think the first time we played them and we tied them 2-2, we absolutely battered them. We just did everything right that day, except winning the game. And so I think that that performance, and when it kind of happened, the same way on Saturday, the guys are just like, no way, we're not coming out of here with a win. And our backs were to the wall. We went up 2-0, and then they tied it 2-2, and they had chances, and our goalkeeper made some great saves, and so I just think that the guys could have thrown up the white flag, and we could have very easily let that game slip away. But I think that there's been moments in the season where we've done that. Our body language hasn't been as good, and our body language was great on Saturday, and that's what led us to the victory.
We look at the fact that in this game against Southern Connecticut State in the playoffs for the NE10, you were able to go up early, and and Southern Connecticut State found their way back. The ebb and flow of this game, and you coaching for as many years as you have, what can you say to the effect of offensively, you got started early, commanded early, got out into this thing on the road, and put yourselves in a good position, but Southern Connecticut State didn't back away? What was going on when you go back and look at this that you can assess from this game that can help you moving forward?
It's playoff time, and obviously in our game of soccer, if you can get the first goal, that means everything. Because you can very well defend and win the game 1-0. I think by us coming out and that's been a message that we try to relate to the boys this year. And I think you mentioned in the beginning of the show why we had so many ties. We need some urgency from the get-go, to put these teams away. And then we had some urgency on Saturday.
And you talk about that urgency and having that extra period. We know that rules have changed in recent history, so you can tie in these regular season games and you don't go to an extra period. I know you're a coach that's had a bunch of them, as we're talking about, 5 ties this season in the regular season. So are you for or against that type of situation? Because we know playoff time, somebody's got to win. So you go to the extra period against Southern Connecticut State and you get the decision 3-2. But how do you feel about the fact that you didn't have that in the regular season, an opportunity to go to an extra period, play some extra time, and actually have a victor come from those games?
Well, I mean, it's a tough question, because if you look at our ties that we had this year, I think we had 3 really good ties. And saying that we gave Mercyhurst a tie, and they're undefeated this year. We're the only blemish on the record. Franklin Pierce, who is also undefeated and number 1 in the nation, we had a tie against them. We're the only blemish on their season. Southern New Hampshire, who's having a good year, I thought that was a good tie up there, because this is a tough place to go and play for. To be honest with you, at the game we should have won, but the referees took that decision away from us. And then, and then there's been other games that we've tied that I wish we had overtime, because we probably would have got it done in overtime. But I guess you can't have it both ways.
In this game that you had, first game of this postseason for the NE10 for LeMoyne men's soccer, as we're here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios with head coach Tom Bonus. Tom Goodrich, later on, there was a minute 18 remaining in that first overtime period, a potential of going to a second overtime, and we have the contact come in. Goodrich gets the opportunity for the penalty kick. Is that, for you as a coach, a salivating moment to say, okay, we got about a minute before we have to play another period, and not only do we get an opportunity to get a shot on goal, but it's a penalty kick? Bring me into that play, what you saw, and if that's the best that a coach could possibly want in a situation like this in sudden death.
Well, honestly, the penalty kick was great. But the overtime rule changed, in playoffs. So no matter what, when there's overtime, there's 2 10-minute periods, and you got to play them all the way through. It's not a goal and goal. Yeah. So even though Jack scored with a minute and 18, we knew that we still had another 10 minutes after that. But it was good that he scored it when he did, because it gave us a chance to get everyone in and get us organized, for the last 10 minutes, how we wanted to defend and what we wanted to do, and it worked.
And it's confusing with these rule changes that in the regular season we don't have overtime, but in the postseason, like you said, there's 2 extra periods no matter what. So when you score, there's that whole, so I think there's, like you said, a lot of decisions, 3 of them, 3 good ones of those ties, like you said, going into the regular season, and what that did for the team and being a blemish for Mercyhurst and Franklin Pierce and whatnot. But then on the other side of it, when you score with a minute 18 to go in the extra period, your brain is like, okay, this is over. Let's move on. To have to go another bunch of minutes there, I mean, bring me into that as a coach, because the emotions got to be all over the place. You finally get that goal. You were up 2-0. They tie it 2-2. You go up with the penalty kick. We're in overtime, but yet there's another 10-minute period to be played, and we know that anything can change in soccer in just a couple seconds.
Yeah, it was definitely nerve-wracking for us, because we were, I mentioned that we had a lot of we had a lot of injuries, and one position that we have a lot of injuries in is our center back spot. So and center backs are the main threat behind the defense, and so we just knew that we needed the guys that were playing center back at that point to step up and and just make sure that we defended our lead.
And you brought up your goalkeeper Mar and what he was able to do, a bunch of saves toward the end of this game, just to bring me in 4 saves in the final 10-minute overtime. So just what you could say about his play in the box all season long, especially at that final period after you got that goal from Goodrich and you had to hold serve here and make sure that you close this thing out. Just what you could say about your back line defense as well as what Mar did inside of the goal itself.
Well, I'm really, with the back four, I'm really proud of, it's been since, the last part of our season, it's been a kind of a makeshift back four because we just had so many guys rotating through that, with our center backs getting hurt and, with Brett Stern, getting hurt, who played, every minute of every game. And so I'm really proud of those guys. Guys like Ben Quigley, who stepped up and been a real solid center back for us. And we had Dave Bozak come in and play right back for us on Saturday. Jack Goodrich has been solid. And then obviously Josh, our goalkeeper, has been exceptional. The last few games here, he's really standing on his head and making some saves.
And so now we look forward to the game that's coming up this Wednesday, a day from the time we're speaking here on November 1st. So this Wednesday, November 2nd, as I made mention of earlier, at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, you'll face off at Adelphi in Garden City, New York. Bring me into this matchup against Adelphi. I know that you had them just a few days ago, back on October 19th, also a Wednesday. Had them at home at Ted Grant Field, defeated them 3-0. So what can you take from that game moving forward? I know it's playoff time, like you said, so things are going to feel different and look different and whatnot. But from that game that you had, the match you had against Adelphi, and what you've learned about them going into this matchup, knowing that they're the ones that stand in front of you, and a continuation of this postseason, hopefully into the NCAAs as well.
Well, no matter what, we know Adelphi is a good team and a good side, and obviously we had a good result against them a couple weeks ago, and so we're not taking anything for granted, and we just know that we gotta, guys, we gotta work hard, we gotta, grind it out, and it's gonna be a tough ask, down there, but definitely one we can get if we show up and we're ready to play.
That coming from Tom Bonus. Tom, final word here. What you learned most about your team in this last game?
Say that again, Dan?
All right, what you learned most about your team in this last game when you had an opportunity to let that victory marinate against Southern Connecticut State as you step forward. Biggest notes that you have written on that, pad of paper that's on your desk in the office. What are those bullet points that you're taking into this next one?
Yeah, I just think the willingness to work, to grind it out. We had told the guys about 4 or 5 games ago that we needed to. That's what we had at this point. We had to just grind it out and find ways to win, and we're doing that. So that's something that I've been really proud of the guys about.
LeMoyne men's soccer head coach for the Dolphins, Tom Bonus. As the team moves forward here in the postseason, an opportunity this Wednesday, November 2nd, on the road at Adelphi at 7 p.m. Eastern Time to keep their postseason hopes alive. I could tell you from being on site at Ted Grant Field and from talking with you throughout the season, as well as your student athletes, I'm very proud of the representation you've brought to Central and Upstate New York, to LeMoyne College, and I am so happy to see this team fighting the way that they are. So congratulations to you. I know there's more work to be done, but thank you for the work that you've done, Coach, and my best to you this week.
Okay, I appreciate it, Dan. Thank you very much.